everyone. Good morning to our friends in the US. And thank you for joining today's session on TeleLead Collaborative Echo. Today's theme is Transforming Schools Through Intentional Conversations. And it's a continuation of the session we had last time. And today the focus will be framing questions in conversations. All of us agree that communication is a big part, of establishing relationships. So today is the second part of that series, and our expert for today is Dr. Olson. And so thank you for joining us. And also I would quickly like the Hub team to say hello. So we start with you, Ed. Yeah.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I am Ed Harris. I'm with Oklahoma State University, and I'm part of the Hub team. Thank you.
Yeah. And for those who are new, so Professor Ed Harris is also, so Professor and Williams Chair at the Educational Leadership at Oklahoma State University. Jontry, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'd love to. Hi, I'm Gentry Olson. I'm assistant professor at Oklahoma State University in the Ed Leadership program as well. Happy to be here this morning and your evening.
Thank you. Ashlyn, would you like to go next, please?
Sure, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashlyn Figner. I am an assistant professor in the Ed Leadership program at Oklahoma State, and it's good to see everybody today.
Thank you. And then we have Dr. Atul.
Hi, I'm Atul. I am with ICSL, and it's a pleasure to have all of you connect on a chilling evening. So thank you for sparing that time.
And I'm Anuradha Rai. So we make up the Hub team. And today we also have a very important member joining us, and that is Professor MP Sharma, who is a former player, hockey player, and I think he's the vice president of the JP schools.
Just to give you a quick background, he is not going to say that. So he has represented India in hockey, the national team, and he is a very strong believer of physical fitness. So thank you so much, sir, for sparing time with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So without much ado, I would like to hand over to Dr. Olson. And if any of you are new to the session, very quickly, I would like to say, so we have during this session, the whole idea of this session is capacity building and together creating a community where we can brainstorm solutions, find, and global best practices and use them in our own context. And Dr. Jontry will be giving us, a short didactic. He will be sharing with us and explaining. And thereafter, the case will be, there will be a case presented. Case is a problem or something that you want to solve. So that would be Miss Pooja. And, there will be clarifying questions, which would be done by Dr. Edward Harris. So that actually helps us to understand the case slightly better. And then thereafter, the Hub team led by Dr. Mohan Pradeep will be, kind of giving recommendations, including, the whole group. And then the wrap up will be by Dr. Atul Nishchal. So that is the plan for today. So over to you, Jontry.
All right, can everybody see my slides? Great. Well, again, thanks for having us with you this morning and for being here together. Well, your evening, sorry, I always gotta readjust. But today we're gonna continue our conversation from last time. So if you remember right, we talked a bit about transformative leadership conversation, particularly kind of from the lens of framing conversations. Today we're gonna move into the second part, which is the questioning aspect of conversations. And I love this content, some of my favorite stuff. So hopefully you are ready to learn and can dive in. I'm going to frame today's conversation before we get started. So what we're going to be kind of looking through our own lens of how we're going to attack this difficult topic of questioning, we're going to do it through these two questions. The first is, how do we ask questions from a place of curiosity and learning? And the second is, how do we use questioning to be more responsive to humanistic needs? I'm going to leave us with this last little bit here. This is a questioning reflection inventory. This is an inventory we can all take. I'm going to read these out loud. I want you just to, you can rethink through this later. The slides will be shared with you. But as we kind of go into the rest of this session, as we go into your day, I want you just to think about kind of this inventory of questions for you personally. One, how frequently do you use questions to stimulate thinking about issues in your school? Two, what difficulties do you experience or foresee in experiencing when using questions to engage in these types of learning conversations? What are the barriers? Three, what can help me understand how to use questions for learning conversations? What do you still need to know? And then as you think through kind of the context of your leadership, whether that's of a school, whether that's of a few teachers, whether that's of a classroom, in what context do I generally use questions to engage a conversation? Just think through that. Two, what do my questions have? Do my questions have some organization or central framework? Is your questions organized? Are they random? Are they scattered? You know, do you think through your questioning? And six, what posture do I genuinely take when asking questions? This is all about kind of your body posture, your body language, your heart posture, your mind posture, all of those things. So as we dive into the rest of the session, think about these things. We'll ask questions at a later time, but Anu, as of now, I've went 15 minutes and 30 seconds. So 30 seconds over my time. Thank you so much.
You are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Okay. So questions, anybody, or comments, or anything? Yeah, Atul, please go for it.
A very quick question for Dr. Olson. Now, so traditionally, it is felt that the guru, who's a teacher, has all the answers, and it is the pupils who have to ask questions, and the guru or the teacher must have all the answers. Now, when I, as a teacher, start asking questions from my students to collectively find answers, does that in any way dilute my position as an authority? Does it dilute my position as the knower? That's my question. I don't know if it does or it doesn't. That's my dilemma.
I'll say this. There's a lot of ways of gaining respect with an individual, especially with kids, and being relatable is one of the most valuable ways of gaining someone's respect, even as an adult. And so I actually think in not appearing like a know-it-all, or in asking really good questions, or in allowing others to ask good questions, you build that relational equity that gives you probably more respect. So I would actually say in doing this, you're going to build stronger relationships so that the respect would actually be greater. So it would be kind of the inverse of what I like, just from my study of human relationships and motivation, and that kind of sense of belonging. I think that this would actually only help somebody gain more respect.
Yeah, so one aspect is obviously how kids will react to questioning. Sometimes teachers are apprehensive about it. But also there's a lot of attitude when we go into the class that, the usual attitude is that we are supposed to know everything. That's why we are a teacher. And I think to break that mindset is a very big, step sometimes. So when we go into the classroom as a learner and we create an atmosphere and culture of learning together. And also it's important, why are we asking questions? As Dr. Olson said, if it is to generate curiosity, that's wonderful. If it is used to evaluate them, because kids are pretty smart, they figure out whether you're trying to learn about them or you're trying to create a judgment about them. So I think our intent and our style of asking questions is also very important. And we have to step down from the place of authority to more of building a relationship if we want to do that. I think that's what I have understood. Yes, Ed, go ahead.
I had a question, also just sort of a cultural question. In our culture, I guess our culture, we have different types of teaching and learning situations. One is that I try to adapt is more of the Socratic method, like Socrates, asking the big questions and allowing the student to learn. And so a lot of times that is considered the epitome of education, that I even know what kind of question to ask, so now I don't know if that is common in India, but I know, for example, in Buddhist tradition, the koan, the big question of asking a big question that gets the student to think. And I don't, is that common, or is that the traditional in many of the schools in India?
So Ed, actually,
Can I answer that, Anuradha?
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead, please.
So the questioning technique or the dialogue method was in fact very common in our history, because there was this technique called Vad Vivad, wherein question was like a source question, and from that emanated many more ideas and thoughts. And it was in fact the way in which the Guru Shishya Parampara was, based on, wherein the Guru would ask a question and the Shishya would answer, and then the Guru would, elaborate on that topic or subject. So while that was years and years ago, but currently the situation is that we are so focused on probably the syllabus completion or the content completion, that the technique, the relevance of the questioning technique is not given due respect. So the three kinds of questions which Dr. Olson mentioned. So the investigative question is, for example, a CCQ or the concept checking questions, which are very important while the lesson is on. That is, in between every, a subtopic after completion, a CCQ should be asked to ensure that the learning is taking place and it's on the right track. And then, of course, when the lesson gets completed, then the imaginative question and the higher order thinking questions also follow up. But whether this is happening, well, not in that, it is not in that planned way, or in that, the lesson planning itself does not have enough space for the questions to be thought of, and, it doesn't gain that much importance in our current education system, is what I want to mention here.
That's very enlightening. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Pooja. So I I think there was two very, very important chats that I wanted to read out. Actually, would you like to say what you wrote on the chat? It was very important, that how questioning helps us to clarify. I thought it was very pertinent.
Sure. This was in response to the question about, the authority issue with teachers asking students. And I think one of the additional benefits of teachers asking really good questions is, and this goes back to Dr. Olson's presentation, but it really uncovers their mental models on whatever they're thinking about a concept. And so when you're, instructing and planning instruction, you have to find out what the misconceptions are. And so you might have, 20 students in your class, maybe more, and they each have a different mental model of the concept. And so you, as the teacher, you don't know what they're thinking. You can't see what is in their mind. And so asking those intentional questions almost brings out into the open that mental model of that concept. And so if they're struggling with something in math, asking those questions allows you to see, okay, where is the misconception? Where does that lead? How does that inform my instruction in the future?
Thank you. So we can carry on. I think there are a lot of other questions we want to ask, but first let's move to the case study and then we can.
Right. So quickly, I'm going to pause here and from my side, I'll quickly review what just happened and maybe we'll open it up for discussion with everyone over here. I'd like to hear your thoughts as well as to what you've observed so far, things that went well, things you thought did not go well. I'd like to hear from you all. But just to review what just happened in any ideal echo session, it always starts off with a pre-presentation, like you saw in this video also. And for all of those participants who joined us today, before the actual start time, there were a few slides that we played before the introduction round today. So that is what we call pre-presentation, and that is usually used to set the expectations with all the participants that are attending that echo session, right? So Zoom features you should be aware about, some do's and don'ts during the session, housekeeping announcements, and the hub team, in this case ICSL, that's International Council of School Leadership, also showed the agenda on the screen just to give everyone a heads up as to what is coming in their way, right? So showing the agenda during the session also helps the hub team, especially the facilitator of the session, to manage the session better, and the participants also have that sense of time and sense of direction in terms of thought process as to what is the topics that are going to be discussed, and how much time do we have for discussion, timings, etc., right? So those are very useful ways to manage time, and set the right expectations from the very beginning with all your participants. And then we moved on to the round of introduction. So we had cut it short in this video, but there was actually a full round of introduction where the hub team introduces themselves, then the participants also introduce themselves. And we always recommend this, especially for a new program. If you all here are potentially planning to launch a program in the near future, you will have participants who are very new to this concept. They might be a little reserved in the beginning. They might not open up so easily. And that's pretty natural. That happens with all of us, I think. And giving them a chance to introduce themselves always helps you break the ice, right? A lot of our partner organizations who are running echo programs, they specifically conduct ice breaking activities besides the introduction also. So this is just something for your consideration. If you want to do something like that, you can always do it. And then we moved on to the didactic presentation, and you saw how Anuradha ma'am was facilitating that session. And according to the agenda items, she was inviting people to take on the next item on the agenda. Like after the introduction, she invited Dr. Olson for the didactic. And right before I paused the video, she was inviting the case presenter. So that is how the session is mainly managed by the facilitator. We'll discuss this more as we go along. Um, so that is a summary of what just happened in the first 15 minutes of that video we just played. I'd like to open it up for discussion. Anyone who'd like to share their thoughts, questions, we'd be happy to address them for you. Anyone who'd like to share their thoughts or questions, you can feel free to unmute yourself, or you can put them on chat and we'll make sure to answer them for you. Any questions so far? Any comments? Any observations? Anything from anyone?
So like we said, if you don't ask questions, we will ask. Okay. So what did you notice about, the facilitator for that matter, or the expert who was, speaking, or anything about that one thing that you noticed? So let me ask, Bhupinder sir, you were with us earlier also. Tell us, what did you notice? Okay, so he has sent a chat. The theme of the echo should be in line with the case study. Okay, so Yeah, that is one point. In this case, but it's not always so. It needn't always be so. Okay, this is what I want to say. That yes, typically because we share, the what we are going to be, the next didactic is going to be. People do share cases similar to that, but it's not a complete kind of a thing that it has to be related to it. Okay, it is a case is a case. So if somebody has a different case, and you would have noticed in this session, we have asked a member, Mr. MP Sharma, to come, who was actually not part of a hub team, the original hub team. We invited him because the case was to do with sports and his expertise, and none of us, even though we have some idea, but we were not equipped to kind of answer that with we didn't have the, so we invited a special guest for that day. So even if the case is not really connected with your didactic, that's an ideal situation, doesn't matter, then you invite a expert for to discuss that case. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, but that's a great question you asked.
I think Bhama ma'am had raised her hand. Bhama ma'am, would you like to share your thoughts with us? You had raised your hand initially.
No, I just put it in the chat. I just said it is so nice to see people are very respectful of each other's opinions and ideas. So it's a nice, very nice atmosphere in ECHO, which from the beginning, I mean, it's really to be appreciated. So, yeah.
Yes,
a comment.
that is
Yeah.
one of the values of ECHO.
Yeah.
And so you have to model it, and you have to, and it's not just in our training sessions. So that is one of the values of ECHO otherwise too. So it is something that we endeavor to kind of, follow. Let me put it like that. And that is why there is, and Pama, I think you are a great example of that yourself.
No, it's just from the beginning, it's so nice to see this atmosphere in ECHO, which, thank you.
Thank you, Bhama ma'am. Anyone else who'd like to share their thoughts or questions before we move forward?
Yeah.
Sorry, someone was saying something. This chat by Mr. Raju Barua, and he says the discussion is collaborative and participants submit additional information to clarify the doubt and as add on. Yes, that's a very important point. And like we mentioned earlier in the previous session also, that interaction and engagement is a very critical part of all these ECHO sessions, and the facilitator plays a very critical role to ensure that level of engagement is incorporated into the session. It's not always easy, and you do sometimes face tricky situations, and participants might not be very interactive on a particular day. So the facilitator has to get those things out of the participants through different techniques, and we have a separate session on that. We'll talk about it in more detail. Yes, Lalita ma'am, you want to make an observation? Please go ahead.
Yeah, what I have observed is that everybody speaks precisely to the point, and they are focused in both the questions and the answers. There is no wastage of time, and there is full utilization of the time, and a lot of learning can happen that way. So that I wanted to observe from the case that you have presented.
Yes, that's a very important point, Lalita ma'am. Thank you so much. And of course, we always say this to all our potential hubs, that we want to be respectful of everyone's time, because people have their own jobs besides the ECHO programs that they're participating in as well. So always start on time, end on time, be respectful in conversations. So those are all core values of our ECHO program. So thank you so much for sharing, Lalita ma'am.
Yeah, and also I think about being precise. So I think Lalita ma'am has made a very, very pertinent point. So when we request people to present cases also, so we kind of sit with them, and so that it's not long-winded, and you know how